Chapter 5 and 6 of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 contains one of the greatest video game sections I have ever played, the Eclipse. A moment in the story so profound and important that it acts as a focal point for the entire narrative. The story after this moment takes a fundamental turn in direction, pacing, and theme after this event occurs. The entire landscape and characters of Noah and Mio change on a fundamental level. Last time, on the Noah and Mio analysis series, we talked about how these two characters represent two sides of the same coin. Noah represents the critiques about the systems in place in the world of Ionios that keeps the inhabitants oppressed in the endless now and cycle of war, death, and rebirth, while Mio represents the effects those systems can have on the people living in that world. I've talked about this before, but characters are tools in a story to convey theme and to perpetuate the story being told. Good characters are the ones where you forget that fact. And it is during the eclipse that the purpose of the characters of Noah and Mio begin to shift, to morph into their roles for the second chunk of Xenoblade 3's story. While the theme shifts from cycles of war and people in authority treating common people like nothing more than pieces on a chessboard, to a theme far more in line with metaphysical constructs and messaging, such as being willing to step into the future and move on from the comforts or routine of the present, to have the will to carry on. It goes from a very grounded and human theme, dealing with real-world struggles, to an overarching message about carving your own path. Xenoblade does thematic transitions a lot, and 3 is no exception to this. Noah and Mio, from this point on, are far more focused on finding purpose and the will to carry on, to not be beholden to the present, and be willing to sacrifice their happiness in relationships right now to continue stepping into the future, to choose their own future and carve their own path, not to just walk one that was laid out for them by Mobius. Noah thought that Mio died at the eclipse. It was actually M, but it's important to remember that Noah thought it was Mio. Noah then must relive some of his past lives with Mio, and in the ones that we are shown, he finds Mio again and again, and then at some point, loses her for whatever reason. Noah will never lose the aspect of his character that exists thematically to showcase the criticisms made personified of the world of Ionios and the Endless Now. However, he now becomes a tale of how grief can lead one upon a path, of their own choosing, mind you, that leads to the life of a villain. The road to hell is paved with good intentions and all of that. Out of his pain and desperation at losing Mio over and over, and the fear of losing her again in the future, for having his happy ever after constantly just out of reach, due to the world, instead of fighting against that world and its cruel system set in place to force Noah to walk that path, that Noah, the one who would go on to become and chooses to give into it, to perpetuate that world, because if he was the one pulling the strings, instead of being the puppet controlled by them, then he could live out his own selfish desire and not have to fear the future anymore. It was an attitude rooted out of a basic want for survival. The world itself seemed so daunting and powerful that instead of fighting the odds, Noah gave in to them and decided to inflict the same pain he felt on others, reaping the benefits all for his own. And he morphed and shifted as a character until it was unrecognizable by his Mio or M. He decided to be the prison warden instead of the prisoner, but he was in the prison all the same. And while he chose the role of villainy, the distress that he felt for all those cycles is understandable. Heck, he's a sympathetic and relatable villain after all. It's a pain that he felt that we can probably all relate to. Pain and loss and fear of future pain and loss, and how the systems in place can perpetuate that. Noah just chose the easy way out, one that would grant him happiness at the expense of others, and that was his character flaw, that would give rise to the villainy of N. Mio, knowing this is the path Noah walked before to become N, had to test her Noah to make sure that he wouldn't make the same choices, because she knows that eventually it grinds away at M until it's unbearable. Until Noah is unrecognizable and he just goes by N. Heck, there's a plot point where she just wanted N to call her Mio again instead of M. He changes into someone that is not her Noah, or at least who she remembered. But maybe this is the case of an unreliable perspective. Maybe that was who Noah was all along. As an example, Do you remember the flashback when he ran away from everyone in the snowstorm with Mio? The feeling of self-preservation at the expense of others? That was always there. It just boiled over once Zed gave him the choice to choose to become Mobius. You can find him sympathetic all you want, but the underlying response was always lurking below the surface. Noah, however, due to Chris and the journey he had now walked as Ouroboros, it just changed him. And not just surface level either. It gave him a different worldview. Instead of giving in to the world and picking up the puppet strings, he wanted to cut them, to destroy the world that had taken so much from so many, that forced everyone to walk one predetermined path, devoid of choice or a true sense of self. It's a system of the world inherently and irreparably flawed that couldn't be saved. It had to be pulled up from the roots, dragged into the light, and put to the sword. Think about it. What does Noah unlock after realizing this? The sword of the end. I mean, you can't get any more on the nose than that. He awakens to the true form, a freaking sword there, that he will use to cut the world apart. This path doesn't guarantee his own happiness, or Mio's, or really anyone. Heck, remember the Noah side story? Chris even says there's no guarantee that Origin will even work. Everyone may just end up blinking out of existence, with no trace or memory to even remain. But herein lies, and here comes into play, Noah's conviction. Because that's still a better outcome than a life on predetermined rails, going around in circles, where your own pain and suffering is used to nurture and better the people and systems in place that keep you there. It's a world antithetical to the principles of what it means to be human, and that is a fate worse than death. A life without the ability to choose the path you walk. It isn't life at all. And the struggle for freedom and the ability to choose your own life and your own path is something dang worth fighting for and risking it all for. That was the lesson Noah had to learn in the Eclipse, and one that he did end up learning because of Chris, uprooting everything Noah thought he knew about the emotions and mindset that people had when they were dying. That contentment in the smile they wore before they died was the only one available to them. That no other path existed outside of contentment, that maybe those you leave behind may be able to forge a better tomorrow, because that tomorrow wasn't for you, it was never available for you. That contentment shouldn't be the only thing available to the dying. That maybe things will get better. That is not a just world, nor one that needed to be humored anymore. A world that allowed people to have their own personal choice and their own liberty to choose the path they walked, and to choose their own smile that they could wear when they died, or even have the choice to wear a smile at all. That was a world worth fighting for. Mio needed to know this, needed to hear that Noah's conviction was ironclad for this, before she could reveal her ruse. She had to know that her Noah wouldn't walk that path again, but be willing to walk the path towards tomorrow, and not the one that goes in circles. Mio serves as a test for Noah here, to judge if he has truly changed as a person, and if this Noah is worthy of continuing on, if a hero truly existed within the person of Noah, or if nothing more than a villain remained. And with both of their convictions set to walk towards tomorrow, the Eclipse ends, with Noah and Mio beating back N and the rest of Mobius and establishing a foothold in Agnes Castle, from which the rest of the story can springboard from. And the villain, who decided to become the puppet master, is now forced to remain in this world of Ionios without the one he did all of this for, to wallow in his sadness and desperation, and to have that turned into anger. He must revisit all those emotions of grief and loss that he had to feel over and over and over again before, that he had only pressed the pause button on. He never worked through any of them. He never grew as a person through any of them. This Noah, though, was willing to work towards a better tomorrow, to deal with those feelings of loss, to grow as a person. And that was the difference between N and Noah, between villain and hero, between protagonist and antagonist, the ability and the want to walk on. And next time, we cover the side stories, which serve to solidify and harden each character's ideals and purpose, for Noah and Mio respectively, as we continue our march to the end. So buckle up, because in 1 week, we find out where we belong. Thank you everybody for tuning in. My pleasure making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. The story of the Eclipse for both Noah and Mio is a focal point for both of their characters, coming to a point at this moment where all the lessons and experiences that they had to learn, not just in that life, but in the lives they led before in this endless now of Ionios. It all came together, and they had to learn and choose to walk the path that would lead to the ending of this game. It was a massive turning point for the narrative of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And next week, we watch the result of that path and analyze the smile they are able to have at the end of it all. So I'm going to call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. If you leave a comment down below with your favorite moment of the Eclipse section. Was it the sword at the end? Was it the flashbacks? Was it Noah choosing to walk his own path? Was it Noah just absolutely humbling X by smashing the orb? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your perspectives and hear your stories. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day. Don't forget to hit the bell icon. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified for when I upload in the future for when next week's video comes out. But for our next Xenoblade video, we return to Xenoblade 2, Allrest, and the story of Rex as his encounter with Klaus begins. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day. Hope to see you all again next time. Go play some video games if you can. And as always, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.